Please welcome to the stage, Harald Friedl.
Hello, Oslo. It is not Christmas, unfortunately, but this is the amount of waste one average family in Europe produces in 1 week. And when I go on the waste mountains all over the world, I'm always surprised by how much opportunity lies within this. Because we have come to accept this as a normality. Where I'm from, in Austria, in the Netherlands, here in Norway. But I, for the next 40 minutes, ask you to imagine if out of these resources we could come up with a new story, a new circle that I want to offer to you for the next 40 minutes to step into with me together. To redefine the story of waste into one of resources, one of something we don't want to have a look at, into something that we call innovation and a driver for our businesses. So this is what I want to explore with you today, because Christmas could be every day. And I want to show this in a personal story about my life, how circular economy has become a very essential part. And I want to invite you into this circle because one thing is clear, it can only be done together. And I have to ask you, because it didn't come from the Netherlands for nothing, to ask you for permission and invite all of you, because about 3 to 4 times during my presentation, I will make you a bit uncomfortable. And please, with a raise of hands, are you okay with feeling nothing to be worried about, huh? It brings luck, hopefully. Raise of hands, please. Who is okay during the presentation to feel a little bit uncomfortable? You know, even in Germany this works, also in Holland, in Austria. I don't have all the hands yet. If I don't have permission from everybody, I will have to be very careful. Do I have permission from everybody to ask you to a little bit careful, to a little bit sensitive, because the organizers, and thank you Corey and team for having me, thank you for Sirk Norge to organize this. It is a story of human interaction. And if I don't have this permission with you, we can't create a new story. That's why I ask you for permission. Thank you. Everybody here has given their consent. So enjoy the next 40 minutes together. And I want to start with you, because I can tell you afterwards more about myself, but now it's about you. Please get out your phones. That's the only time I'm going to ask you that, then you put them away. I would ask the technicians, please, to come up with the QR code. Thank you very much. A little Slido question about who is sitting in the room and how you feel. Norway, and some of you know that, I guess this has been part of the conversation yesterday, is only 2.4% circular. That's what the report says. Doesn't have to be that way. It's the situation at the moment, and I wanted to know how you all feel about this. Sad, bad, sick, tired. You know that unfortunately Norway, because of the structure of its economy, is in that situation, but it also means there is a big room to improve, because I helped to invent this report. It was not meant to shame anybody. It was just meant to show the situation, what can be improved. I think you all see that results. Harald is on top of it as well. Flabbergasted, embarrassed, sad, sick, tired, hopeless. Good. Somebody feels good, okay? Discouraged, depressed, but I think we get the gist, what the majority of you feel. Next slide, please. Next question. If you were Prime Minister, and they are changing, at least in my country, where I live, much too fast these days, what are the 2 decisions in terms of sustainability, circularity, you would take now to change that? Because I learned, I was in government, I was an advisor to our prime minister, and I was CEO. I started also innovation companies. It's always easy to point out, but to actually step in somebody's shoes and say what you can do different. I invite you to answer the question. Perfect. Require circular production. Targets. I'm going to get back to targets a bit later. Set targets. I can't, unfortunately, speak Norwegian. Afgiften, I think it gets CO2 certificates. Taxes, regulations. No tax on reuse. Love that. Your Swedish friends are doing a lot of that as well. More cooperation, collaboration, enforcement. Maybe we can capture this as a word cloud and then share with everybody and send to the new government. And I'm going to go back to this a little bit later too. Next slide, please. Thank you so much for all your collaboration. What is happening in Norway now? I mean, in terms of projects, developments, not only what should happen in the future, bless you, but what is happening now that gives you hope. Every country has this, I hear about the trash subway in Bergen. In where I live now in Amsterdam, it's the commitment of the city to go 100% circular. What's happening here? What gives you hope? Collaborations. This conference. Congratulations again to the organizers to get so many people here. Cooperation. We're going to talk about this also. Trust, more reuse, EPR, good systems. Next question. Thank you so much. Another question to you, because I'm trying to tell you all over the speech today. It's easy always to look at the solution so outside or point to it, but when you bring it back to yourself, because you are CEOs, maybe you are regional governments, maybe you are ministers yourself, you're driving organizations and companies, are you yourself doing enough to contribute to a positive future in your country? And it's so interesting when I do this all over the world, what I get here, the Norwegians are more in the middle, so 6, on a scale from 1 to 10. Often you end up between 3 and 4. So it's quite shocking what tells me this, that people, I think, partly don't find enough time or direction to know where they are going. And I think the circular economy for me has personally given this trust, because I was somebody before that continuously was looking for what is the thing how I can best contribute my life to. And then circularity and the circular economy gave me this peace of mind, and it seems that some of you have it already, which is very positive. And often the sentiment in some other countries, in Europe and outside, it's much below that. So it's fantastic. So you are involved. Next question and last one. What do you want me to cover in the speech? You have last-minute requests. If you have any, that's great. If not, then that's also good. Wood, culture, hope, textile export, an answer. I love this. And I wanted to maybe bring this up because I was walking before through all the stands, and I know I'm not paid to do this. And online, I'm very known. I have a big following online on LinkedIn because people like to hear stories indeed of hope and how they can engage. And I was so cool to see a couple of things I've been hoping for the last years. The future of bins, bringing it back to people in households that are not doing the job because they are often not given the tools. Makes me really hopeful. A company that is cracking the code on textile and wood recycling, I find amazing. I've been talking to hundreds of these recyclers. Really gives me hope. Made in Norway, recycled content mixed with virgin and or another secondary material. Fantastic. And I'm going to talk with this company. One of the sponsors also that brings us here a bit later, because I think it's so symbolic to have in your hand a symbol on how change is happening. Thank you so much for giving. This was not, by the way, yet the exercise where you feel a little bit sensitive. That's only coming now. So we are talking about trash to circularity and why I'm obsessed, and I think this conference is, to turn ambition or talk into action. You can follow me online. I try to always answer everybody. Because I have 100,000 followers, it's getting a bit difficult to follow all of this. But it keeps me so alive every single day, because everywhere in the world, Africa, Australia, Asia, people are looking for solutions at the moment, and that makes me so hopeful to continue my path. Why I have been involved in this a long time. I lived in Asia with my family, in Myanmar, in Burma, and Thailand. And then I got a call to come to Holland. I'm Austrian, but to Holland. and they said, "Can you do you want to become CEO of an impact consulting company called Circular Economy?" Circular Economy is very well known in the space, one of the top three do tanks, and it was the place where we invented the Circularity Gap Report 6 years ago, where the circularity rate was still 9%. It has now dropped, but it gave me a good insight working with hundreds of companies, literally dozens of cities, and some countries on the way how you can turn from a linear to a circular system. I've just picked up a lot of things that can happen are not happening, because I always, when I go to these audiences, I'm so honored because they're real experts in the room. Like the companies I just showed you, industrial companies using secondary materials, textile companies. I'm only a student of all of this, but I'm a student that has been listening quite well and heard hundreds and hundreds of cases, and I can tell you, here, you're in a very rich country, like my own country, Austria, so it's kind of a missed opportunity that your circular rate is so low. And there's an opportunity to maybe look at, are we really a sustainable country if our circular economy rate is at that level? And I never say this with finger pointing because I know how difficult the job is, but if we all get out of this tomorrow and say we take a step, or as I invite you, we take a step back into this circle, and this is how I feel every day, then we have a chance to succeed. When I come up here, I don't tell I'm speaking to you about somebody who knows anything better, but I feel with you, that people look to people at the moment who can galvanize change, who can find that narrative in the future. I've written also 2 books about this. The one was The Customer is the Planet, which was an Amazon bestseller last year. And now I'm trying to write a book about how this personal change and the collective change are coming together, because this is kind of my obsession. First, I want that you start to give an applause to all of you who have been doing all this work. Because circular economy companies or people who are involved in that, it is really like the Champions League of entrepreneurship. You know, you want to attend to economic goals, environmental goals, societal goals, which is the circular economy as a system change effort. But I think you need to be, everybody who is involved in this, given an applause. And with this applause, my respect for you, I'm going to ask you to go into the first exercise with me. That is the personal side of things. While I tell you the stories that I have experienced as CEO, then I was also the ambassador for my country for the circular economy, so they called it Circular Economy Accelerator, where I was working with the government on building the bridge between the public and the private sector and bringing civil society in. And then I was also in my previous lives, I was a journalist, I told you, a government spokesperson, and I saw always the business side as CEO and the civil society side. And I was always touched that everybody operates in these silos. One silo doesn't speak to the other silo, doesn't speak to the other silo. And it drives me mad, because above all, I want collaboration. And so I would invite you, the first exercise which I did last weekend for the first time, it's to try to get from you passive listening, which it is because you're quite far away here, to an active co-creation process. Yeah? The method I'm going to using is going to be sounds. And believe me, I'm terrified of singing, especially in front of crowds. But I'm going to try to make a sound together with you. It's just hum. Okay? I'm going to hum. You're going to then hopefully fall in place and hum. Please don't make it too embarrassing for me. Why I do this? It is to show you that anything you are talking about to any client, to any collaboration partner, is less likely to happen if you're not in the same field, if you don't work on getting into coherent place. And this is what psychologists and scientists found out. If we are all in coherence here, my talk will be much more impactful. Your learning will be much more insightful, and then the action will hopefully be more sustainable. Are you in? Can you hum with me? Sign of hands? Okay. I'm going to hum first, start, and you are tuning in. And I'm going to ask you what you experience after, okay? Maybe 30 seconds, we do 2 or 3 hums together, okay? 1, 2, 3. Hum. You could also close your eyes if you feel more comfortable. Second hum. Hum. maybe last one. Thank you so much for trying that. Can anybody share what they experienced? You can shout if you don't want to raise your hand. As an experience. I know you don't, please. Calmer. Peace. Connection. When I did this exercise, thank you so much for also daring. And I know, that's why how should I say that? I try to explore the field between personal and collective change. It's not easy to do this as a speaker. I can bombard you with 100 slides, more facts, and then, I have enough knowledge about the topic. We can speak here 2 days. But I want to give you an experience that is a bit challenging you from all the thousands of conversations that I have had. And then my son looking at me and said, so why is the world not more circular than 9% or 7% now? It's because we don't dare to be connected, to be in peace, all of that. Because if we are daring to do so, if we are daring to look into the human economy, we actually are able to have incredible results. So thank you for sticking with me. And there's a scientific base for that. I talked to several people before I came here, and I because we don't have the time and luxury to have a serious conversation over tea and coffee now, a longer one, I distilled 5 questions that might be in your minds right now. So the one is, apart from the fact that you might think, why is he doing the humming? It is sense-making. What is circular economy? Where is it globally? What are you seeing? 2, many people ask me, why are the Dutch so good at that? Also, the Austrians ask me that all the time, Everyone says the Dutch are Dutch are Dutch. It's a reason, by the way, why I, as a mountain person, moved to a very flat country to be part of the change there. 3, you don't need to be ashamed of that. What is in for me? For my company, my business, my city, my government. 4, what's the new narrative? Harald, fine that you're coming, but there's so many strains, there's so much coming together. How do we actually live this tomorrow, and how we go into action? Does it resonate, these 5 questions? Anything to add? Are these the answers? I think it's also relatively in sync with what we have seen before. I asked that just to make sure. Linear economy, past. Circular economy, that's the future. It's like the Chinese medicine for things. How can we naturally again be in cycles? Because we are part of a big cycle of life. Not only the Lion King, also we as our families and our societies. This is a very, 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 very important piece because everybody, and I'm very appreciative that many companies here also are waste and recycling companies. We know that waste and recycling is part of the echo chamber of what we can deliver in the circular economy, but only one part. And when I was circular economy ambassador, it was the most contentious topic because in many countries it's kind of a fight, it's the recyclers against the rest, the waste management against the newbies, the circular economy guys. But it's really one thing when you start to understand the opportunity together. The only question to you is let's be open to everything because circularity will only start to move when we work together. And the biggest impact still is in these times that we rethink, that we are on top of the ladder. And sometimes it is being forgotten. Because the fact of the matter is making sense of the world at the moment is quite difficult, Yesterday, Mr. Trump in the UN says it's a hoax that we are living in times when the climate change is a hoax. Now, I'm really not here to make any political statements, but it is something we are bombarded with, and you need to make sense of that. We are, on the other hand, also in a society, and that's why I put the pig here, that has a problem of instant gratification. Has to happen now. The return cycle of my investment project is 1 year, max 3. The investors. We can't get out of this if we don't together take the choice that we can actually make together something happen, also with financial returns that makes sense. And the last one is that many of us are in this cycle caught of a consumerism that seems not to stop. On the other hand, we see the global economy pointing us to the fact, and I heard that the chief of staff of Mr. Stoltenberg spoke before, unfortunately I missed him, to prepare all the waste bags. It's a political topic now everywhere. It's not a sideline topic. Material security is imperative. I traveled to China 20 years ago. The Chinese have very well secured back then already the materials they need. There were long truck lines, I remember, on the borders of China, hundreds of trucks bringing resources into the country all the time. We see it in Africa and everywhere. And luckily also Ms. von der Leyen, the chief of the EU, again reiterated how important that the future of Europe, and hopefully Norway as part of this obviously, is centered around an economic system that is not necessarily an American one, but it is one that is inclusive. I come from a social market society in Austria, very strong, where they always try to balance the different pillars. But we need to find a way how to verbalize it. Many CEOs that I speak to these days know this report is the competitiveness report about the EU of Mr. Draghi, and it's very heavy on text. But it basically says we need to invest in a circular business model. We need to make it reality. And the businesses and financiers are playing into that both, because otherwise we're not going to make it happen. And Google most supported or most subscribed accelerator program on circularity 2 years ago. In Rwanda, big investments in the country for making action plans happen. 50 countries plus have action plans now. The CEO of the biggest cement company saying it's the biggest or one of the biggest business opportunities of our times. A cement company, really not super innovative, super flexible. It's also the hardcore businesses that are saying it and involving it into the realities, into their strategies. To answer all of these issues, and I'm not a person that is known to talk a lot about this, but it's important to know why we do it. We have societal, economic, and environmental issues where the answers we have now in the linear system are not fit anymore to give the purpose and the answers in the future. And then the question is always, you're talking about this big collective change, the big change systemically that can happen. And the circular economy is not something, that's the end goal. It's an action path. It's the measures we are taking to get to a fairer and environmentally sound and business-savvy system. In the change of the automotive sector, and I hear the colleague from Nissan also gave that presentation before, the change is incredible. Just 4 or 5 years ago, the IEA said the last combustion engines will be produced in the 2070s. That's like 40 years from now. Now, with Elon Musk, Tesla, London, Amsterdam, cities saying we don't want these cars, it's going to change. These different signals from the markets. Suddenly, even the automotive industry in Germany says we have to phase out combustion engines in the 2030s. So we changed in 4 decades. This was abbreviated, this time frame was abbreviated in 4 decades within 4 years or maybe less. So I believe if the different signals are coming together from the business sector, from the investors, and the policymakers that play this very important role, incredible fast-paced change is happening. Why and are the Dutch really so good at circularity? Because there, I'm also known as a person that is pushing for more. We worked a lot with Amsterdam. Amsterdam known as the front runner on circularity. We worked since the early 2010s on the first circular economy strategies there. It's now the, 5th iteration or so. We also combined it with a donut economy from Kate Raworth there. So we used all kind of interesting models to bring the business side and the collective side, the civil society, better forward. And you have to imagine the Dutch are really good at this because they are used to collaborate. They used to collaborate because a third of the country hasn't existed before. It was ocean. So they had to collaborate to make more land, to give more space to the people that live there. It's highly densely populated. And they are the inventors of capitalism, one of the inventors. The first stock market was there. So they, whatever you want to say, are incredibly innovative. They're trying out many things. Are they all working immediately? No. But I haven't seen a country that is so determined for innovation. It's really incredible. Can a collaboration be improved? Can investment be improved? All of this is true, and they also don't have a circularity rate of 100%, but at least they are saying it. The Prime Minister now the NATO Secretary General, said, I think 2016, Holland will be a circular country, 100% circular country. We, as kind of community or experts, were looking at him and said, nobody knows how to get there, but the political ambition is good. And I'm going to go a bit back to your political ambition here, because I think it's so important to set these signals. Then cities started to run, businesses started to run. Philips, among them, we have worked a lot. You know, the CEO said, it's part of me, who I am, what I want to bring to the company, but also I'm trying to bring our shareholders into it. And that's not easy, because the stock market is not waiting for it. The Dutch then created these 6 action pathways, because it's about redefining, really re-engineering a whole economy. Everything has to change. Production cycles, agri-food industry, construction industry, to really have, I think, for Europe also, a green economy as our anchor point, because we need it. We need it to have jobs in the future, not sell out only your oil for short-term revenue. I don't think that's a smart strategy, and everybody will normally agree on that. So the focus on jobs, and we did it in Belgium and Netherlands, different cities, to make that connection that a circular job, most probably also a more long-term one, where we respect different investment cycles, has proven very successful. You are with me still? Show of hands. Is it too fast? Is it good? Because we're going to go to the next exercise very soon. What does it have to do with me? So I was really tormented in my life, and I thought, how can I make the best impact? I tried business, CEO, I tried government, I tried civil society, but I only started to understand. And that was when I lived in Burma. I was sitting when I got this call from this company, said, do you want to be the CEO of circular economy? I got into the topic, and it gave me a relief to understand, obviously it's true, we all know that in theory, we are all connected. Everything is connected. But we seem to act like we don't belong into that circle that we're all creating, which can be your economy in your city, which could be your business, some ecosystem that you want to nurture. And beyond that, it's a business opportunity that can create many jobs, that I believe now is with the push on policy regulation around climate change. And I told you I also advised the climate change negotiation. The push is seriously coming. And not many people have an answer. So circular companies are very well put in a situation that they have the answers for industries that need them. It is, for me, a story of connection and disconnection. These facts are incredible. The global cost of a disengaged workforce are costing trillions of dollars because employees are not anymore connected to their companies or themselves. 8.8 trillion, this is more than economic powerhouses, by the way, like Japan or Germany. 10% of British workers only feel engaged in their jobs. And the main reasons are that people it's a weak leadership, we know that, lack of clarity where the company is going, but the meaningful work and the people don't feel connected to it, of the recognition is an issue. I believe when we are building circular economies and circular companies, it is an answer, because very, very core of any circular proposition is no circular economy without nearly connection, without collaboration. You know, the big ones here, obviously in Nordics, you often talk about IKEA and the big ones, even those in any country, in any industry, the big ones, and I tell you from first-hand experience when I was driving this in my country and sat on the table with many of those, the companies say, all sizes, we can't do it alone. We can't. So we need to give this space and build spaces for collaboration. That's what the Dutch do very well. There are commitments to collaboration pathways in different industries that are going beyond political cycles. I think that's a very, very good thing. And if you want to have a personal story, I'm very, very inspired by this book, The Top Regrets of the Dying. You know, if you don't take the economic argument, you don't like the collaboration argument, you don't believe that you want to answer to the disengagement of the workforce, it's also a very personal topic. Because people, and this nurse is writing about this, that has gone into hundreds of cases where people were in the last days. The summary of why people regret life or what they regret at the end is very, very unique. And they all say similar things. It's a bit like, we have not lived the life I wanted to live. We didn't give back enough. So for me, it's this triple bottom line, Align with yourself and do something you really find important, because personally it's the right thing to do. Align it with the people, your community around it, and then with your business. So this is, in other words, the circular economy. 4, what's the new narrative? So how are we taking that forward? What's your role in it? I would invite you to a little time travel with me. And this will start, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes if you want to. If you feel uncomfortable with closing your eyes, then don't. But I want to give you some rest to sink in and travel into the future a couple of years from now and get a sense what such a new reality could look like. Because when you're going out there in the city, and it is any city of Europe, by the way, you are not going to get that feeling. So I invite you to take a deep breath and close your eyes. It's going to take 2 minutes. And the people who are speaking and hear me, maybe they can dim down their voices for a second. And I thank you for your trust to go on this little journey together. With a deep breath in and out, we are transferring us all together in a time machine into Oslo 2030. It's only 5 years from now. And imagine you are stepping out of this time machine and you're looking around. Oslo 2030. You're standing on a street that you know very well, or just outside here, and everything is a bit different. It feels lighter, calmer, more alive. And you look around and the city is now 100% powered by renewable energy. Every new building uses at least 50% fewer virgin materials than only 5 years ago. The roofs and facades, they are alive. Living gardens, buzzing with pollinators. You realize the bees are back. The buildings are green, engines, power plants, producing more clean energy than they consume, feeding them back into the local grid. You are an energy entrepreneur. The air is quiet. Circular mobility rules the streets. Silent electric ferries, shared bikes. The people in Oslo have appreciated a new way to move around. And this has redefined their relationship to time. You move differently. Private car ownership has dropped dramatically. Most journeys are made through seamless, shared mobility systems. Also, consumption has shifted. You consume differently. From buy and throw away, you have adopted a way of using, sharing, repairing, even remaking, leasing goods, borrowing tools in your neighborhood, exchanging services. It's more community feeling, and it has built trust between the people, which has improved citizen safety. Waste is almost gone. Oslo's material footprint has been reduced under the leadership of the mayor by 50%. City reuses all its own resources like a living organism. A kind of a sense of a human economy is emerging. Your work is more caring, creative, and collaborative. Community-run neighborhoods and hubs in the neighborhoods where materials, skills, and energy flows in circles. Norway champions this new era. Innovators, local governments, students, elders, they are leading the world in designing regenerative solutions for Europe and beyond. Hold in your mind this simple vision. Oslo, a city that gives back more than it takes. Norway, a thriving circular society. I invite you to stop the little journey we went on together here and feel one more time into this city that you have traveled to. It's not so far away. I believe it's possible. The only question is, what's your role in this? And if anything comes to you, that's your role. You might want to write it down. If you want, or you keep it in your mind's eye, or in your, just keep it in mind. And I believe, as you open your eyes again and come back, to bring this also to a peaceful and motivating end. And before bringing you home, also showing what I see globally, what's happening, which is incredible. The packaging industry being revolutionized. I will not go into all these examples. You can find them online, but it shows the shift that is happening. Eatable packaging. Companies showing we are not doing packaging from wood anymore. It's a commitment. These companies, here, construction company, I can't make detailed advertisements. They are building in one of your big industry players, building insulation material from recycled content, what they call secondary market. You know, it's so incredible. The woman, an entrepreneur from Amsterdam, she made the first recycled tennis ball. I'm a tennis player. There are 800 million tennis balls every year that were thrown away in Europe. And before I spoke to her, and I've been in the business now for a while, I never thought about this. So I'm every day coming into a new story, and she said the whole tennis industry is looking at her because they all want a piece of this. They are interested in the solution. Now, I don't need to go into the challenges because you can imagine they are huge. The ones that are there don't like her. The rest of the industry has the huge ambition and pressure to change, and she sometimes doesn't have enough funding, not enough people to grow as fast as possible. Plus, in the plant, she also wants to involve socially challenged people. Same story here. When you come with a new business idea, it's not immediately the best business case with the best returns. But I strongly believe with the policy environment is changing so fast, within the next 2 or 3 years, the business cases are paying off. And it is these front runners that are making things happen that we all thought were not possible. Former CEO of Philips, once an investor told me about him and his efforts, and he said, you know, we need to support these front runners because they can't do it by themselves. In Austria, the Climate Lab and Circularity Lab, they put it together so that climate and circular economy, these debates are much more intertwined. Last year, we published a new report about the circular tourist. How does it mean that you can continue to have or be a tourist without having this huge bad conscience that you shouldn't be a tourist anymore because it just costs too much? There's too many externalities. And I love to travel. I'm very honest about this. There is no train here, so I had to take that flight. But we need to work ourselves with the industry. How does a new circular economy business concept can look like? Vienna, and I think it's also in the planning here, repair bonus. The city of Amsterdam paid people for things to be repaired. I think it's really, really strong policy measures. There's often a negative side to it because the money that was coming out of a fund, they then scaled it. Some people, unfortunately, also abuse that. Also true. It doesn't mean that the idea is not phenomenal. IKEA, Zara, many of the others are coming up with secondary markets, so it is going in the right direction. Another colleague, the mattress topic is also such one that is so dear to my heart, because when I go into any city of the world, all the time or often you see mattresses lying on the street because people just get rid of them. And the sheer sight of it always frightens me because there is no good infrastructure for that. That's why I like that example of these bins of the future. so much. We have to make it easy for people. We need to have the systems in place, and that's our joint task. I'm super hopeful also because AI is a chance to see how far we can push materiality, find different materials. Yes, it's still a problem about the energy footprint of AI, and there's a big discussion around it. And it can be used for many good things. Reporting in all of your companies, when I speak to many of the colleagues in companies, reporting, a challenge, we have to reduce the risk. And if you see, for example, the European sustainability reporting standards from another perspective, as an opportunity to actually change your company from within, I've seen incredible cases, but it needs the investment from the top level that says, we use this as an opportunity to change and not only to cover all our risks and try to tell a nice story, which is often the practice now. And the hugest of all things, I think one of the big transformations is going to come from the DPPs, the digital product passports. I'm working for the climate change negotiations, and I think you know, or maybe you don't, what we think we know about the emissions at the moment, most of it's estimations. Nobody actually has ever measured how much emissions we have in the air. Same with materials. Now we're becoming better because of sensors, satellites, etc. We don't know, as economies, as cities, governments, where are all the materials? Mayor of Oslo most probably doesn't have a material passport where he knows, I know so much cement, so much aluminum, so much steel is going to come up, and we can build secondary markets around that. Once this is in place, and it's going to expected as of next year, 2026, and then phasing in, for example, with batteries and electronics, we're going to have a much easier time because we know where all the stuff is, and we're going to be able to design that for the future. And consumerism will look different. I'm really hopeful for that, and hopefully become a bit less dependent on this, on getting always the newest item immediately. As online, many people have seen me maybe. I wanted to share a little bit what I find also interesting, because many of the posts that I share are going viral, and I believe this is because I try to focus on what's possible. And I wanted to give an overview for the last 90 months, what is interesting for people on LinkedIn that are engaging with the things I'm putting out there, just that you get a feeling often you don't get that behind-the-scenes view. But it is so everything above 100,000 impressions they call viral. And so when you talk here in the first post, I talk about what you can do with old tires, tire industry recycling, how you can bring regeneration and composting into your own home, what you can do with clothing, not only downcycling here for bricks, but fantastic here, the gentleman before, how can we close how can we build a local circular textile system, big mega projects like the African Green Belt, they are working on also in China, which they are now talking also for the US and in other parts of the world, redefining our way to look at being chic and being cool. How can we deal with secondary clothing? Overconsumption as a topic, one of my favorite ones in Australia, they just banned, I don't know how this is in here, the little soy capsules that when you go and take out sushi, normally they put it into a little very nasty and very horrible plastic bag, so they just banned that in Australia, only now, brilliant idea. Or how does the future of construction look like? I believe there's a real interest from the public and your clients to engage on that topic. So I invite you to be part of the change, and please communicate about what you're doing. Because together we're going to be, as we saw before, with our humming together, we need all the voices, and if they are synchronized, and it happens when you hum together for a longer time, you will realize that before it's a kind of a scary bit, but then suddenly the whole room vibrates with in one frequency. That makes it much nicer for a speaker here, I also do it for my purposes, to speak to you. Because otherwise the room is all very fragmented. You are somewhere in your thoughts, but when you do this together, people are very focused. I wanted to talk briefly about your expert group, because the expert group on circular economy, they had a report. I tried to read it. I read the executive summary. It's only in Norwegian. I only had to translate it. But I think there are a lot of good messages in there. So I think I'm not coming to you to tell you, I think the Dutch are better, and look there. There's so much good stuff happening here. The only thing, and that's why I put also Tomra's response to it, that was quite interesting. The report basically says, the circular economy, that's what it's called. It's not happening as a straight line. I think this is maybe the good translation of ikke rett fram. This is how it is? How do you call it? Say it? Can you say it? Somebody loud? Ikke rett fram. Thank you. So not a straight line, yeah? Not a straight line? Not straightforward? Because it's going to be like this. And that's okay. The only comment on it, what I had is, I'm missing a little bit the boldness the Dutch Prime Minister had, I told you before, that said it's going to be 100% circular in 2050. Finish, no conversation. And this I would wish that we maybe get to. The opportunities are Circularity Gap Report. You can go from 2.4% to 50% quite clearly and cleanly in the next 2 decades. If you focus on a couple of things, these are the topics in many countries that are priority. Circular construction, clean energy transition, for circular food, green transport, and building this new era of consumerism around repair, reuse, recycling, and all the business models that are around it. And I don't have the time, because I'm already 1 minute over time, to say I also thought about opportunities. There's a lot of great things happening in your country. And where are maybe the light bulbs, these projects that said we can go much faster. We do something on circular food, but really, shouldn't we together be much more ambitious? That's, I think, the question I want to leave you with. Because I believe every country, we as citizens, deserve a vision. And also in your old government program that I tried to research, I didn't have a very clear vision of how the economy should look like according to the government that hopefully has consulted with some people saying this is where we're going to go. And working with the Prime Minister, I can tell you that people, normally the governments don't dare to say it, but maybe it's a time still to ask that from your new government. And here, I worked on this a bit at home. What about saying by 2030 Norway will be the world's most competitive circular economy? Make a statement with a reduced footprint, achieving 70% reuse. And shifting will have a positive impact on jobs. You can take photos of it, send it to your local politicians, maybe send it to the people who are negotiating just now, so I can come to the last point. How are we going to do this and go into action? And this is going to be the last uncomfortable exercise we do together. This has given me the most hope in my work on circular economy in the last 10 years. Minimal viable ecosystems. Can I have a whole speech around that? And I'm trying to bring this in 1 minute to you. I'm the host of the startup program in Amsterdam, the Circular Economy Startup Program. We had the experience that if you invite one entrepreneur, one company can never bring the change we want to see, systemic change. But if you say, we want that you come as an entrepreneur with your whole ecosystem that you need, which we call the minimum viable ecosystem, this is the circle we want to show up. What does it mean? We have now the second iteration of this, circular construction. Last time we had about circular food. If you are a catering company, the catering company has many partnerships. The farmer that's producing the food, the people who produce the packaging, the person who does the logistics and reverse logistics, the people who are financing it, and the client, at least. So now we found out when the person, the entrepreneur, the caterer, comes alone, she cannot answer any of these questions, which I think you understand why. Because if you want to solve the business case of such a proposal, a more circular catering, a fully circular catering system, she needs all these partners at the table from the beginning. Why? One reason is that you have to talk about how we redistribute the benefit, the profit you're going to create. People are much more inclined to enter collaboration when you tell them at the beginning what they will get from that. I think that's logical. So we're looking for this primary customer. Who can be this node that will make the whole thing possible? So we can make the minimum viable ecosystem visible and financeable. Because on the other hand, the big problem is finance. We found out that banks, financiers, angel investors are much more likely to invest in a minimum viable ecosystem and move it hopefully very soon into a minimal sellable ecosystem if they know more people are involved. Logical? Show of hands, logical? For me, this is the biggest game changer when you don't see yourself alone anymore. The company we just talked about, bring your partners from the beginning into conversations. I realized this when I talked to Renault about building circular cars 3 years ago or so. And they said our business model has shifted so much because we are now partly owning battery installations. We have to service these batteries. We have invested in startups. We have entered into joint ventures, which made us as a company much more complex, an ecosystem, but it also made it much easier or more likely that we actually can produce a circular car. This is for me the name of the game for the future, and herewith I come to an end. For this, you need to take action. These guys are, for me, the best at taking action because they're taking away the fear, because they do it together. And I ask you to stand up for our last exercise. All of you who are with me still. Then we're coming to a close, and sorry for the organizers to go a little bit over time. This exercise, and I'm not doing what they are doing, which is called the haka. They are dancing in front before any game to show the opponent that they are a strong team. And they do this because they are in a circle, they are linked to their origin, and they know also why they do it. So they are based in their values, which I think is very important to bring back into our experience. And as I said, I ask you to join the circle again for action. I'm going to do it one time for you, and then we're going to do this 5 times together, okay? And we're going to do this. Ha, ha, ha. And I'm going to show this, and believe me, it's very uncomfortable because I'm a semi-introvert person too. And, no joke, it's true. It is because I want to make you feel how when you go into your negotiation, this negotiation could end up with an incredible explosion after the comfortability at the beginning if you do it together. If you find that line why it makes sense for your partner to also invest in you. Are you with me on that? Okay, that's why we do this, not joke. That's actually a sensual experience I want to anchor into your bodies when you're going out there and having the real difficult things to do, the real uncomfortable things to do, that you think of this moment. Okay, last exercise, then we are going to close this talk. Hopefully the music is working now. Okay, we're going to do 5 rounds, okay? We're going to do 1 for you and then you follow. 1, 2, 3. Ha, ha, ha. Okay, now together. Ha, ha, ha. Come on, Norway. Ha, ha, ha. Still 3 times. Ha, ha, ha. Louder. Ha, ha, ha. 2 times. Ha, ha, ha. Ha, ha, ha. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Harald. We were planning for some questions, but you see we're a little bit on over time. I just want to thank you for taking the long way to Norway, giving us this inspiration, and just ask the people to keep up the good work. So thank you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you.